Life Audio.
Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, the show that equips and encourages parents who are homeschooling children with unique learning needs. I'm your host, Peggy Ployhar. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches nearly every homeschooling parent at some point: how to create smarter, more personalized learning strategies for your child, especially when the standard approach just isn't working. My guest today is Matt Bowman, the co-founder of Open Ed and co-author of the groundbreaking book, Open Education. Matt and his wife, Amy, have been pioneering personalized education for more than 30 years, serving over 100,000 student enrollments, including many in military and remote families. Their mission? To help parents craft learning journeys that honor their children's curiosities and unique strengths. We'll be talking about how to shift from traditional educational models to ones that truly support real-world skills, student agency, and the kind of joyful learning that sticks. So grab a coffee cup, get comfortable, and join us as we explore smarter learning strategies for homeschool challenges. Welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thanks, Peggy. Great to be here with you.
Yeah. This is your book, Open Education. I spent some time this past weekend reading it, and I just kept saying, "Yep." Lots of things that I said over the years, and it's all in one concise place, and so well put together and written, because it's not just a you should do this. But it's almost like a tactical approach to this is how you make this done. And I love that.
Well, thank you. Yes, we use the phrase learning out loud. That's what we want the book to feel like, is that we're, Isaac and I are just sharing experiences from our family, from the students we've served over these many years, and really just wanting to help people think through what we did. And if we can help, great. But as you noticed, it validates a lot of things you've already said or done or experienced. So it's really served kind of both. It validates those that have done it before and opens people's eyes that haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah, that's very true. And it takes a while to de-school. Especially somebody who's been in that education mode. I grew up in a traditional education system, and when I started homeschooling, it took a lot of reframing and a long time for that to happen. So what led you and your family to challenge the traditional education system to where you are now in running Open Ed and writing this book?
So it really dates back to when I was a teacher. I was a public school teacher and taught sixth grade and really enjoyed that. And then as my wife and I started having children, we have 5 children, and now they're all married, and we have 4 grandkids. So it's fun to see the cycle continue. And we just noticed that even though we were raising each child in the very same household, right, with the same culture, same home, same expectations and cadences and, family nights and all that, each child was different. And seeing that each child needed something different for their education also then led us to say, well, you know what, I bet other families feel the same way. That if we have children who are unique, how does a single standardized system serve them all? And so that's really what the genesis of Open Ed was, learning from our own family, seeing that every child's different, and helping other families access personalized education too. Yes. Yeah.
That it's so true on so many levels that, and I almost, have realized in my children not fitting in from the beginning that it was actually a great blessing, because I was able to see just how much they needed that structure change versus, some parents that I talk to that don't really realize it until their kids get into, to some quirky things that don't fit, maybe when they're older, and they realize that they've been trying to squeeze into this system all their life, and it's been a battle internally that they haven't even shared, and then it crops out as other things later on. And so
true.
Yeah. But so what are some of the biggest misconceptions you see in how people approach, this personalized education? Because I think there's probably a lot of different different ideas of what that means.
So true. So yeah, we actually referenced some of them, as you noted in the book, starting with, what about socialization? Will my kid be behind? Will I battle homework like I feel like I do in the traditional setting?
Right.
What will they be able to go to college? One of my favorite stories, I was chatting with a dad once who said his daughter was miserable in her school setting. I said, well, just try taking her out for a week or a month. Just let her break free of the standard system just for a little bit. And he said, well, if I do that, will she be able to go to college? And I said, I was about to answer different pathways. And I said, how old is your daughter?
Right.
He said, she's 8.
Oh, I was thinking she was in high school.
No, I did too. Like, I didn't know the age of his daughter. And so when he said that, I just stepped back and said, okay, friend, let's just talk through some of your parent anxieties around that. Let's focus on what she needs to be joyful and thriving and learning and love to learn. And he stepped back, and he ended up a year later calling me and saying, I took your advice. She's never been happier. And he also has let go of that stress as a parent of an 8-year-old. What college can she get into? Right. Which is just, I said, worry about that later. Let's just worry about her happiness and satisfaction with learning now. And it changed his daughter's life forever. And so he's, anyway, it's a very applicable story to sometimes, and even one of the chapters we have in there is, parents, don't let your reputation get in the way of your child's learning. Because sometimes that is the biggest barrier, is the parent anxiety of, what will my friends say? What will my grandma and grandpa say? What will my uncles say? Aunts. So if we can get past that and do what's right for the child, and my wife and I faced that too, as we started doing hybrid learning or alternative models, personalized education for our kids. We were shocked to see neighbors, point it out that we were being a failure parent and not doing what was right or expected. And we had to deal with that emotion and just say, well, this is what's going to be best for our children. And we were glad that we were able to learn how to put our children in front of that. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. More so now, post-COVID, we don't see as much retaliation or resistance against that. But I homeschooled for 19 years, and we started way before that movement, and so we got the same pushback, and especially having a child with special needs and doing that, then we were of course messing them up. Because we weren't an expert and we knew nothing about what we were doing. So,
no, you faced that for sure. And we've seen that shift also, where maybe pre-COVID people would say, hey, I'm doing personalized learning or customized learning at home, open education. And someone would kind of say, oh, that's a little different.
Yeah.
And now in the last couple of years, the response is totally opposite, which is, oh, I wish I could do that. I just don't know if I could.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big shift from.
That is a huge shift. Yes.
A question to a wishful, request.
Exactly. Yes. We will continue this conversation after a short break.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-497-4410. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
But you are right on the point that there are a lot of families. I'm thinking especially, on the coasts that have kind of built into their culture that, the vying for the colleges and all of that. And it's built into, just their regular daily life and just how they position their family and, look on the outside. Not so much in the Midwest, but yes, it is a lot for a parent to deal with and ask, go back and ask those questions. Why am I dealing with this? And I think your book does a really good job in helping parents sort through that and really why they're going through those stresses. And it's kind of like a little therapy session that they need to have with themselves and about their child.
You're totally correct. And we see that so often. The parents just need to kind of sit with it for a little bit and decide what it is that's holding them back from thinking differently about it. The other key thing I want to point out is that this is one of the first, if not the only kind of open education topic books that doesn't criticize the entire public school system. We want to include that under the umbrella of open education because number one, many families still tap into that resource, which is great.
Yeah.
We just want to invite families to consider, do you need to tap into all of it? Do you want to tap into some of it? What's going to be the right mix for your family instead of just assuming that you have to make this big choice between one or the other. You don't kind of a la carte each option that works best for each child, each semester or each year. And just learn to be a little bit open to different models that can help children, at different ages, like it changes.
Right. So. Yeah, I think the statistics I saw post-COVID was that a lot of families before then, when they homeschooled or they did any alternative educational option, whether it was private school or whatever, they would lump all their kids in that same bucket. Yeah. But post-COVID, people chose to do different things with different kids from their own home. And you're taking that a step further as you're saying, what about all those options for each child? And so that's when I was reading your book, I'm like, why not? And that's
what can get overwhelming. That feeling. You've worked with many parents that, who tap into your programs and support. And we really just want to invite people to consider all of the options and not feel like there's only one or another option that they have to choose between, but kind of find the ones, mix and match. And that's what gets daunting for families, which is why we hope this book kind of outlines some practical steps to get started. We hope that it doesn't make it feel overwhelming, but really accessible to anybody to just try a little bit. So that's what we've tried to accomplish with that.
Yeah. And I think you do a really good job of breaking that down because you kind of walk parents step by step through, ask them those questions, give them, you gave some examples of scenarios, which always helps parents. I know I speak on a topic very similar to this, and I always talk about how each of my kids and their learning plan was completely different than the others because of just their bent and their interests. And why not? You have that ability and that freedom to follow what they're interested in. So why not go with it?
One of the insights that I gained over the years that just has always stuck with me is sometimes a child might say, oh, I'm not good at math. That's what their identity is that. And then I'm able to confidently say, it's not you, it's the curriculum you haven't found yet that clicks with your learning style. And when they realize it's not them, it's the curriculum option, we're like, there's 1,000 different curriculum options. Let's try ones until you find yourself succeeding with it. And then the child can take on the ownership of, you know what, I'm going to go shop around with their parent and teachers and other, supportive adults to find something that then makes me realize it's not me, it's the book or it's the approach. And that's just life-changing to know that you can turn the tables and say, I just haven't found yet what works for me.
Right. Yes. I had a parent ask that about, I don't remember what the question was. It was about keeping on time and helping their teenager stay on time. And I shared the scenario of doing something similar like that with my daughter and an app. She wanted to be able to use an app for helping her to plan something. And so I let her loose and said, well, why don't you go figure out which app works for you? Try it out. And if it doesn't, but it gave her a lot of agency to then, if it didn't work for a future project, she just changed it. She didn't even ask me. I wasn't involved anymore. She knew that was a tool she needed. And I think we forget that when we have our child involved like that it does help them to realize it's not them, but they need to find a better solution. And there's so much out there. You've got the trial and error, like you said, is so important. It's an important part of the process.
Yeah, definitely one of our building blocks of open education in the book is give your child a voice. And we really believe that agency, as you mentioned, and choice, and just having them have a seat at the table in the conversation of their education plan is really inspiring to kids.
Absolutely. Yes. And they realize that they can learn and that it's fun and it's exciting and it can be something that is layered into things that they enjoy and want to be part of, instead of just, oh yeah, mom and dad put this in front of me, now I got to do it, or the school put it in front of me and that's, my assignment. It becomes, part of what they choose. So yeah. In this designing, learning, and following a child's curiosity, what about parents who struggle with structure? I know a lot of them say, oh my goodness, I have ADHD. How could I do this and not lose complete direction? Because I think a lot of them, they think about this and they're like, oh no, I need a manual that tells me minute by minute what I need to do.
Yeah, that can definitely be tough to figure out how to create that right balance between structure and flexibility.
Yeah.
We point out some things that kind of help. One of the themes of our building blocks is creating a learner-driven sprint that's only 2 weeks long. So don't overwhelm yourself with a full year curriculum or a full year plan. Just have, spend a little bit of time of figuring out what your child's interested in. And what we like to do actually, and we lay this out, is interests and needs and resources. So kind of an interest, needs, and resource analysis. So you start with, what are the children interested in? And that doesn't require a whole lot of structure. Just kind of like we like to say, watch what they do when they don't have anything they have to do. Where do they gravitate? What are some of their natural interests when they're not overly structured? Yeah. And then say, what are some of the family and community needs that we identify? What are some family expectations or requirements around the home, or what are some needs in the community? And you kind of start to say, well, are there some interests that children have? Are there needs that the family and community have? And can we marry those? And then once you do that and say, okay, for 2 weeks, let's just identify some things you want to learn about. Let's figure out how they can solve some needs in the family or community, and then just go for it. Give them resources over those 2 weeks to figure it out, and then return a report after a couple of weeks and just share what you've learned. And if you just do that once and see what happens, that's some structure. We like to say our Open Ed logo is an O with structure, but some fill in the blanks in the middle, right? Yeah. And so it's just not an open field. We have some structure, and that helps the children feel like they actually have more freedom when you give a little bit of guidance like that.
Right. Yeah. Because too much freedom is not good. Right. Because then it's like the possibilities become too endless, and then they become overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think we as adults can get that way a lot too. So what about like foundational skills? I know a lot of parents are saying, but my child is never interested in writing or never interested in math. How am I going to get them to do that?
Yep. That's a great point. One of the things that I love to, again, going back to finding a curriculum that clicks with particularly in math, that's a tactical skill that maybe is not inherently self-motivating, But if you can create kind of this structure where it connects with their thinking and their brain processing, it's, and have them do it 20 minutes a day, right? It's not like 4 hours you've got to crank on math. And one of I don't know if we cited in the book, but there's studies around particularly boys need to be exhausted before something like math facts or math practices stick. So I like to say, spend, 10, 15 minutes doing some math, then go run around outside for an hour and then come back and do 10 more minutes. Right. So literally don't make it overwhelming. And if you find a curriculum that clicks with the brain and they've been exhausted for an hour, they'll learn and they'll find ways to figure out how to apply those principles. And then the second piece I love to advocate for is entrepreneurship. I feel like as children and young people, teenagers learn to think like an entrepreneur and go out and solve problems, there's a whole lot of natural math practices that come into play when they're thinking about entrepreneurship or community service or projects that they realize, oh, I don't know enough about that. Let me go study a little bit. Then they're really self-motivated to figure out some math basics and foundational skills. Yes. Because they're motivated by solving a problem in community or making $1 by selling pumpkins or whatever. And it helps them realize the practical application of math. And then that leads naturally into reading and writing, finding things that they're interested in learning about. Creates a natural reason to read about it. And breaking that down into, if kids love sports or dance or music or whatever, have them just learn about things that are related to that topic. And it's not a struggle anymore. If we isolate that, in one of the chapters in the book, I talk about eating bread, where I love eating bread, but if you fed it to me one ingredient at a time, I would not like bread. If you fed me baking soda at 1 hour and flour and yeast, bread would be disgusting. But if you can integrate it into natural, one experience like entrepreneurship or projects, then bread is tasty, right? Because you eat it all together. And so when we help children learn to read and write, sometimes we've had kids transcribe YouTube channels that they love as their writing activity, right? So just listen and write down everything Mr. Beast is saying or Mark Rober or whatever, right? And kids then get excited about being a transcriber of a favorite YouTube channel, and that's their writing practice, right? So you can get creative on writing and reading and math, some of those foundational skills, tie it to something bigger so it feels like motivating to them, and those skills will come.
Yeah, that is very true, and they don't even think of them as then those subjects, and they're probably doing them at a much higher grade level than they would if they had, that disconnected subject matter that they were trying to just grill their way through.
I agree.
Yeah. And it challenges them too, because a lot of times when they do approach those subjects, the language, and the vocabulary is much higher than they would have been introduced to. The math concepts are probably more complex, but they have that willpower to push through because they want to know. They want to know the answer. They want to know the word. And so they just do it.
Yeah, you're so
and that teaches
right.
Kids how to be persistent too, which I think is a losing art in the society that we live in. I run an in-person business and teach students also. And I have found a lot of kids within the public school system give up very quickly.
We will continue this conversation after a short break.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
My homeschool students, they are amazing. They will keep working on something till they got it down perfectly. And I love that about them. They're so much easier to teach.
I think you're right. I think, and we highlight some of this in the book as well, which is sometimes in traditional schooling settings, we only let kids go 40 minutes deep in something. Right. It's just very a shallow experience. And then we make them, the bell rings, they move to something else, and their brain gets used to never going deep. Whereas students and so that they lose the ability to have persistence or resilience when it gets harder, because they're not used to going deep. Whereas a family in a personalized education, open education world can spend a day or a week or a month or a year on one topic and go really deep and learn. And some parents get concerned about, what if my child just wants to learn about dinosaurs all day long every day?
Right. For the next 2 years.
Yeah. We say that's great. They're learning how to become an expert deeply in something.
Yeah.
That skill.
It's a very important
They've
skill.
learned how to go deep and in depth with that. So I think it's a great principle to remind ourselves of.
Exactly. Yeah. I just made a post recently on social media about why do we expect children to be generalists when we have a society that, values people who are specialists. And most of the people liked it. I got one really rude comment, but I don't think she understood my perspective. Oh, well, I can live with that. Can you give some practical examples of how student-led learning can look differently depending on a child's learning style or strengths? Because I think parents may need some practical, examples.
Yeah. So let me just think through some, starting back to this entrepreneurship concept is probably where I'll give some good examples. I've met with families who one child is very interested in music and wanted to start a business around creating custom compositions. So he used his guitar skills, the music skills, and would sell his tracks on a website. His sister, was interested in music also, but didn't have any interest in selling anything. So she set up a nonprofit entrepreneurship pursuit where she would just donate her time to give music lessons to kids in the community. So that's an example of both topics were similar. They both had a passion around music. One wanted to sell and couldn't wait to he told me he sold $2,500 worth in a month of his custom compositions. And, his sister didn't want to sell and just wanted to donate her time and energy to the community. Both are great, right? Both are solving a problem. Both are helping you grow and learn. And they had similar experiences of what they needed to do to help serve those that they were trying to serve, with just a slightly different pursuit, but it was different for each child. So I would just, I would encourage parents to not be too quick to judge if one way is better than the other. Let the child kind of navigate some of that and provide them resources to, mentors are great. Finding someone in the community that you can chat with, or apprenticeship through, as the children get older. For the younger ones, it's just, be okay with a little bit of messiness in the structure. Whereas one kid is, a workbook and, they like the pen and paper on a workbook is better for them. Others like a digital, math curriculum that's game-based. Embrace that and say, okay, I'm not going to quite understand what each one is doing every second, and be comfortable with that messiness, because that's where the magic happens, is each child having that autonomy, each child feeling like they're in control. They're not just only doing what the parent says they have to do, or this teacher, right? So I don't know if that helps a little bit, Peggy.
Yeah, I think that'll help my listeners for sure, because it is hard, because you're like, oh, how do I do this? And especially when you have multiple children, it just seems overwhelming before you even start. But I like when you went back earlier too and talked about, the 2 weeks, and, just giving something to try and seeing where it goes, and not feeling like, we've got to change everything right now, and we're starting from scratch, and that's great. You talked a little bit just in this last answer about importance of community and mentorship. How can homeschool families tap into that? Especially like our families often feel isolated already. And then when we suggest that they go out and try to find a mentor for their child, or they get out, and get involved more in the community, that seems extremely overwhelming.
It can be. One of the tactics that I've shared with families before includes something like this. And again, it can be daunting, but let me just break down. Let's say it's a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old who wants to learn marketing or something at a small business. Step one is to contact the business owner or one of the employees there and say, can I interview you on a 30-minute podcast? So even if you don't have a published podcast, just say, I'm doing a paper on this industry or on your business or whatever, right? So that's a fairly low, scary, low threshold to just contact a business owner that you're kind of interested in, say, can I interview you for 30 minutes?
Right.
Then if that goes well, and they'll likely will, and they'll have a relationship, and then say, hey, would you, the next ask is, hey, would you mind if I came and just spent 2 hours at your business, just kind of observing what happens? Right. So it's another ask, but it's one more layer up. Hopefully that goes well. And the business owner by that point, or the person you're working with, sees you're sharp and say, hey, are there any projects that I could do for you to help you out? Just volunteer my time. I've noticed that can I just do something around your office, or can I do something to help your social media or website, or something that might be one step out of their comfort zone as the owner, and say, can I just do something for you for, a few days? And then hopefully that goes well. And then you say, hey, could I do a formal, 2-week internship? And I, volunteer my time, I'll just come. And then after that, you say, hey, you're really awesome. Would you have a job for me? Is there something I could, get paid for doing? Or the other path would be, will you mentor me as I try to start doing this for other businesses? And then you go to other businesses and said, look what I did for, Jane's company. And now I'm going to do it for Joe's company over here. And then the next one is a paid gig from the start. Right. So,
it's getting that experience. That's the hardest part. I just remember when my kids were getting into that, it's like, where do we start? But that's a great idea. As a small business owner, I would appreciate that.
You would. There's tasks that you just never get to, right? And you don't have anyone that will do those. And so if someone proactively came forward and said, can I interview you? Can I just job shadow you? Can I volunteer my time to help you? And can I then now formally get a paid internship, or at least a mentoring internship, which then turns into your next client?
Right. Yeah. That's a great game plan. Love that. And it reflects a lot of, what you have in your book too, about just, that practical, here's the first step, here's the second step, and really walking parents through that. So I love that. So, we live in an age with lots of technology. And so, tech is, especially with all the new online services that are offered in education, what role does that play in customizing and enhancing the learning experience at home?
I would just say that the scale of technology use can range from 0 to 100, depending on the family needs and the child's needs. So start with that of how comfortable are you with technology? What's your child's age? Apply all those kind of common sense principles of what you're comfortable with as a parent. And then kind of just know that it's a scale from a little to a lot. And if you look at resources that are digital curriculum, there's so many really outstanding ones that just really help children move forward in a very logical way. And then you look at technology, I like to separate consumption with creation. So there's a lot of things where you can just put an iPad in front of a kid and they just consume stuff.
Right.
To me, that's not as valuable
Mm-hmm.
of giving them tools that they can create with.
Yes.
And if you distinguish between consumption and creation, it allows kind of move towards creation always. Like, humans are builders, we're creators.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of technology makes us think we're just consumers.
Yes.
But I really want kids and adults to create, to build something, use Adobe or use, Microsoft Word or Google Slides or whatever, create something. And now with AI, the creation arc is so massive. You can create movies and art and scripts and codes and apps and like AI, it's unlimited creation. So technology now with AI is moving into more creative modes than we've ever had at our fingertips. And that's a little scary for many people, but it's also opens up this, don't just be a consumer of technology, be a creator.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction. And I love that because it gives us a really good guideline to follow, yet it isn't like, what bucket do I fit this one in, and is it good or bad? Right. So that helps a lot because a lot of things just have kids playing games to reiterate stuff, and they aren't creating anything. But then you see the same type of class taught with like Minecraft, and they're having to build and explore and do all these things, which it takes a whole different turn, even though it's the same subject or even the same subject matter that they're learning about. So
we talk a lot in the book about both Minecraft and Legos. Those are open world, open creation, open education. It's unlimited design principles that can happen in the what's ever in the child's mind. And so we love that creative energy, and you can learn all kinds of skills from engineering to STEM to math to whatever through Minecraft and Legos in ways that many people don't realize.
Right. Yeah. My oldest, that was all he ever did. And he's got, I still have a closet full of stuff. I got to get to him when he gets his house next month. But I mean, he's a biomedical engineer now, and that is so true. His brain was just constantly learning all the time. And that was about the time Minecraft came out. He was kind of in his middle school years, and that just fascinated him. So just drawn to that. And it helps their brain to realize how they can create, and more so than just consume. Although he likes the consuming part too. So, you talked about just the number of resources out there. And I know we've actually touched on that a couple times in this discussion. And I heard from someone recently this week that parents are on this information overload. And so, how do you even start to dig through stuff to realize, where do we even start? Is there kind of, I know in your book you have a pretty good game plan. What are the steps that, just give us a general overview of the steps you go through in the book that kind of take care of that overwhelm a little bit?
Yeah, so it's definitely overwhelming. There's so much out there, some bad, lots good, right? It's all over the map. And so it is overwhelming for parents to navigate some of that. What I would say is, and this is partly the community building that open education families do, is collaborate with each other. As a starting point, getting parents together and just kind of sharing, hey, this is what my kid likes or dislikes. What have you found? So there's definitely tap into the experience of your friend network and other parents and families who have done some of this open education in the past. The numbers are so big in terms of who's done this for, your intro showed 75 years of collective experience on your in your team, right? So first I'd say don't be shy to ask others for thoughts of what's worked well and not well for their children. So kind of a starting point is connect with your community.
Yeah.
Then just do trial and error with some of the curriculum providers that are out there. Almost all of them have some sort of demo period or a 7-day license to get for free. So do a little bit of that. You take your time reading reviews and that kind of stuff. Again, that's where it can get overwhelming.
Yeah.
But Open Education, Open Ed, we provide kind of some vetted resources that our curriculum and parent team have reviewed. So if you happen to be in a state where our program's operating, you can get all that for free. You can access people who have really gone through curriculum, the million options out there and found what's really applicable to families, and kind of gives them a marketplace of vetted curriculum options. I'd also say we're launching this fall a private pay academy for those that are in states where we don't operate our tuition-free program. And that very affordable Open Education Academy, where it again narrows down those choices per subject. Maybe we'll give you 2 or 3 different options for a student with a subject area instead of a million. And you can start with those. And if those don't work, our teachers can find more. But we try to narrow that down to even just 2 or 3 options to start with. And that takes away that overwhelming emotion. And openedacademy.com is the other website. Peggy, feel free to share that.
Oh, okay. All right.
For people who want a private pay academy versus the public school program that we run in specific states.
So it's openedacademy.com or CO?
Correct. .com.
Okay. I will add that and put that up on
and
the
that
screen.
launches just this fall with really probably the most affordable private academy on the planet. I think it's like $1,400 a semester for K-8 and $1,800 a semester for 9-12. And we even have an early college option there for people who want to pursue a associate or bachelor's degree. So
very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's to the point where, you get on social media and you turn off your comments after a while because people give you way too much advice. I did, when you were talking at first about, getting together with your local community, I remember the support groups, that were around before co-ops even existed. And I loved that group because they could say, oh yeah, we use this tutor or we do this class, and, it's all local. And so then you're not only just helping your child find a resource, but you're finding your community as well, which, we need that support. And we kind of forget that. We are such an isolated society now that we forget that we need those people around us, and to get connected is so important. So, yeah, great.
I agree.
Great.
And that reminds me of one of the other concerns, as we mentioned earlier, what about socialization?
Yes.
It's so funny, though, that I think homeschoolers and families in the community are the most social families you can find, because they get together in so many ways, and they're multi-age group, which I love, instead of just, birth year cohorts. And so I really think that there's a misunderstanding or misconception around socialization when it comes to open education and personalized learning. There's such a rich community out there that you can tap into. And we have families telling us they have to learn how to say no, because there's so many invitations and so many opportunities. They have to take at least one day off from being over socialized in that world. So it's really definitely a misconception, which I'm sure you can validate.
Oh yes. Yeah. With my kids, we did the same thing. And now that I teach homeschoolers, I actually told my parents on my performance team, I'm like, okay, I'm taking your kids from 10:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon, and you can do whatever you want. It's your day off, because I know you're overwhelmed and you have so much to do. And so they were all up for that, and not having to be at my studio in the evenings with the other students. But awesome. It's you have to find out what people in your community are willing to offer. You just don't know until you ask, and you ask around, because there are a lot of homeschool resources wherever you live. Even if you live in small communities, we lived in a farming town for 5 years and still found very rich homeschooling resources there.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So I have a feeling that some of our parents are, using that one size fits all curriculum. And they found kind of their happy place. We'll make this work, even if we have to struggle. What advice do you have for them that they might be missing out on something?
So first, I'd say keep doing what you're doing. Don't feel like you have to change everything immediately. And what I would say is introduce one variable. Right. One variable, just say, you know what, instead of, or in addition to, we're just going to spend one extra hour doing free explore, right? Without any guidance or a standard curriculum, just kind of free up that hour a day or a week or a month is free time, and just see what happens and see what you can observe children doing without the structured experience, and just see what happens. So just start small. Don't get overwhelmed. Find an hour a day, a week, or a month that is unstructured like that.
I think that helps us to just become more comfortable too as parents. And then when you see the evidence, you see how your child reacts to it, that's when you start opening that door just a little bit more. And so, it is a growth process. So for sure. All right. So, where can our listeners learn more about your work, your book, Open Ed, all of that? I've got your opened.co website. What can they find there first?
On opened.co, you can find all the resources that are available by each state that we're in. So start there. If you live in one of our many states that we operate a program, it's free for all families to join. So go check it out. The Open Ed Academy is for private pay or for those that live in a state. And, just on the book note, it's opened.co/book is where they can find information about our book. And there's a download on that page, Peggy, that I think a lot of families would really like. It's a 13-page kind of practical tools and tips on how to get started with an open education plan. And very valuable resource. Download that for free and see if that helps jumpstart some of your thoughts for your family. So I think those are the three that I would share, Peggy.
Okay. Yeah. And I will definitely put those in the show notes as well, so that you guys can just click on those things. You don't have to figure out how to spell them. Right. And if you put the right dot, whatever at the end, or slash, whatever. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt, just for joining us today, and definitely sharing your wisdom and encouragement with our homeschooling audience. It has been delightful. It has just reminded me about why I did what I did, and I appreciate you for just sharing your wisdom in the work that you do and in your new book. And I'm sure that many will benefit from your willingness to do that.
Well, thank you, Peggy. And likewise to you. Keep up the good work. Everything that you're doing to help families navigate this world is awesome. So appreciate your leadership.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners. If today's episode inspired you to rethink how learning happens in your home, I encourage you to check out Matt's book, Open Education. It's a rich resource full of practical tools and visionary insight to help you build a learning journey that really fits your child and your family. And remember to visit those links that Matt shared to find out more information about the work that he does and his book, and that download as well. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to share this episode with other parents and homeschoolers so they too can discover empowering ideas and meet amazing guests who will support them on their homeschooling journey. Until next time, keep homeschooling boldly and faithfully. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations.
Do you ever hear sayings make their way through the culture and the church that seem nice in theory, but are actually theologically problematic? My name is Shara Donahue, and I'm the host of The Bible Never Said That, a podcast where we examine these popular sayings under the lens of biblical truth. We cover sayings like, God won't give you more than you can handle, time heals all wounds, and follow your heart. We also spend time exploring how people use Bible verses out of context. If you want to grow in discernment and truth, join us and subscribe at lifeaudio.com.